All right, what's up, everybody? We're going to be talking about Hunter Thompson, some Gonzo, right? You all know Hunter? Come on. Woo. So, do I see David in the house? Is he up here anywhere? Because to first talk about Hunter, I want to talk about David Amram a little bit. And so I started working with Hunter Thompson in 2001 on the Lisa Allman case. I don't know if anybody was in Denver at that time, but she was a young woman riding with a skinhead she didn't know. He shot a cop. He killed himself. And then she went to jail for life for felony murder for a crime she didn't commit. So Hunter and I worked together on this rally, and we got it to the Supreme Court. But then Hunter killed himself. And you all know maybe that his funeral couldn't just be any funeral, but it had to be a funeral that was worthy of Hunter Thompson. So we shot his ashes out of a Gonzo cannon 157 feet tall. We shot his ashes out over Woody Creek at Owl Farm, and David Amram was playing with Lyle Lovett and Johnny Depp, and it was a magical night. And so that's when I first met David Amram. Now, David, a little known fact here, who's going to play next, and I don't want to stand between me and David Amram for sure, and you and David Amram, but David was deputized as a sheriff that night by Sheriff Bob Broadus. So you know something's got to be wrong if David Amram is in charge of law enforcement. Okay, we got a problem here. But then David also agreed to a very strange request. I wanted to be the first person to ever swim across Lake Pontchartrain for 25 miles. And I asked David if he would play music while I swam. And he actually said yes. So he played for 15 hours while I swam across Lake Pontchartrain. He's 84 years old, and he played the longest jazz gig of his entire life. And we checked with Jazz Age, and it may have been the longest jazz gig ever played ever. For 15 hours on a party barge in the middle of the night with swelling seas. So thank you, David. He's a great man and a wonderful inspiration. So yeah. So it was Paul Simonon, who was Hunter Thompson's childhood friend, who said that Hunter got interested in the beats when he moved to Puerto Rico from New York City. And in Puerto Rico, he wrote the Rum Diaries. And that's where he charted a course. And he saw that the beats in that direction was a way that he could carve out a way for himself as a writer and carve his own path. And so that's exactly what he did. And he created Gonzo journalism. Now, many people often confuse Hunter as a part of the pranksters or a beat, and he never considered himself a beat. He was unbridled Gonzo journalism. And what does that really even mean anyway? So from my time with Hunter and coordinating his funeral as a spokesperson for the Gonzo family and the nation, you know, Gonzo really means inserting yourself into the story. That you're not just a spectator, but you're an active participant in the world around you. You're not just looking at it from the sidelines. You're there, man. You are involved. You're part of the story. And it was in that vein that he embedded himself with the Hells Angels then in the early 60s. And he started writing the book about the Hells Angels. And through that, in the earlier parts of his experience, he sent some drafts of his book to Allen Ginsberg. And Allen didn't know Hunter. Hunter was an unpublished, author at the time. But Allen sent him back some comments, was very friendly, and they ended up meeting. And it meant a lot to Hunter, and that really was the connection with the Beats and with the Merry Pranksters and with that group of people. And so what was very interesting about that is that during that time, they wanted to have a party, right, at La Honda. They wanted to have a party with the Merry Pranksters and the Hells Angels. And there was only one person who could make that happen, and that was Hunter. So Hunter brought the Hells Angels to La Honda, to Ken Kesey's ranch for that famous party. God, wouldn't that have been fun to be there? 3 days. All right, we have somebody who was there, yeah. And there was a widely reported incident of Hunter and Allen Ginsberg going to get some more beer and almost getting arrested. And, it was in 1968 that Hunter wrote a letter to William J. Kennedy and said that, quote, Hunter was one of the few honest people I've ever met, for good or ill. Of course, that was classic Hunter. So really, Ginsberg was the connection between Gonzo and the beat in that era. And so it was on assignment with the Hells Angels that he brought and brokered the meeting, and that's where he met Neal Cassady. What a connection that was. Neal and Hunter, I talked to Anita Thompson, who was Hunter's widow, and she, by the way, sends her regards tonight. She wanted to be here, but she had knee surgery last week and couldn't be here. But she talked about Neal being a muse for Hunter. And at first I didn't understand what she was saying until I looked at some of the clips and compared the two great figures of American literature. And you see where Hunter has adopted some of Neal's mannerisms and that linguistic style of the rapid fire, the amazing thoughts, and the things that come out of their mouths that are like gunshots, right? And then you see Neal and Hunter, if you compare them together, that Hunter had adopted some of Neal's, the loose, wiry mannerisms and that the way that they move, that rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, always the energy happening. And so that was something that meant a lot to Hunter. And he greatly admired Kerouac. Now, it's not a secret that he was not a big fan of beat writing in general, right? He thought things that were post on the road didn't quite live up to what he wanted. But what he did really admire was the style. But most of all, he admired Kerouac's use of Neal Cassady as a literary device, where Cassady was always searching for the lost father that he never had. And he thought that was what held the story together for On the Road. So it's very interesting. And then you think that La Honda then figures into some of the best Gonzo writing that Hunter ever did. And if you'll indulge me for a second, we'll read a little bit of Hunter Thompson here. There was madness in any direction, at any hour. If not across the bay, then up the Golden Gate, or down the 101 to Los Altos, or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a fantastic sense that whatever we were doing was right. We were winning. And I think that was the handle. That inevitable sense of victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean military sense, because we didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So it's on that I'd like to say happy birthday to Neal, and let's raise our glasses here tonight and have a toast to two great figures in literary American journalism and literature, to Hunter Thompson and Neal Cassady. Yes, they both stomped the terra. They lived life. And if they have one lesson to teach us, it is that we should take the wheel of our own lives, of our own destiny. We are the drivers here. We are not just spectators on this road. We are participants, damn it. Let's get involved. That is their call to action to us. And that is what we have to take seriously. So cheers, everybody. Happy birthday, Neal. Let's rock it. Welcome, David Amram. Where's our friend in the house? Thank you very much.